All right, guys, we're back. I'm Bob Brennaman. This is Carey Nickenchuck with Brennaman Group, and we're going to give you guys a tour of Wagener Terrace today. The area known as Wagener Terrace stretches to the Ashley River on the west, to Mount Pleasant Street on the north of Charleston, and then to Hampton Park on the south.
And we're actually standing right along the Ashley River in front of Lowndes Grove Plantation.
And I think before we start talking about the history of Wagener Terrace, I think it's important to point out really kind of our opinion on the real estate values. And this is a great area if you're looking to get on the peninsula and you don't want to pay the crazy prices that you have to be close to Market Street and some of the areas we've shot in the past. So I really think, if you're wanting to be here and you're, willing to live through some revitalization, which is happening rapidly in Wagener Terrace, I think it's a great area. Presently, you can get a single family house from the $300,000 to $700,000 range. A lot of tree-lined streets, so it's a really beautiful place. And if you want a list of properties in Wagener Terrace that we think are good buys, you can always call us at 843-345-6074.
We're just talking a little bit about the history of Wagener Terrace, and it kind of centers around this area here where Lowndes Grove is. Originally, of course, it was farmland, and in 1701, history shows that it was given as a grant of 170 acres to a man named Patrick Gibbons. Eventually, it became home of a man named Frederick Wagener, or Wagener, as we say in America, who was a German merchant and businessman, and he owned the property. That's actually where Wagener Terrace as a neighborhood gets its name from. The neighborhood became developed more as a neighborhood with lots and houses in the 1930s and 1940s by predominantly Jewish and Greek families.
We are standing in front of 285 Grove Street. It is an example of Tudor Revival style architecture. And there are about 21 examples of this scattered throughout Wagener Terrace. And this building style was popular in the 1930s and the 1940s.
You have a 1.5-story home built with a cross-gabled roof. And so, that's characteristics of Tudor Revival style of architecture that you can see in this house here.
We're passing by Moe's Tavern. Moe's is really a place that's been here for a long time and very popular with Charleston locals. Great place to watch sports, and has been voted the best pub in Charleston for the last 8 years in a row. And I know Carey spent a lot of time there over the years because she used to live in this area.
Yeah, actually, not so much for drinking, but they used to have trivia nights, so we would come in and do trivia. I think it was every Wednesday night. Originally started out as a key club, but it's still pretty much, I would say, truly a neighborhood bar, and it's a great thing to have in the neighborhood.
We're passing by the Park Cafe, which is a Zagat-rated restaurant here in Charleston. It's very locally sourced, and they have a phenomenal fettuccine bolognese. And a lot of people say the inside of it feels like you're sitting inside of a greenhouse. So if you're in Wagener Terrace and you want a good place to eat, I would recommend checking out the Park Cafe.
So this is the Florence Crittenton home, and it was actually, the building itself was designed by John Darlington Newcomer, and they started building this home in 1923, but because of financial setbacks, they didn't actually finish the building until 1932. So this is actually a home for unwed mothers, so if you want to know more or how you can help them, just go to www.florencecrittenton.southcarolina.org.
All right, guys, so we have traveled down to 164 Maple Street, and it's an example of neoclassical revival architecture. It was really popular in the late 1900s and early 20th century, and there aren't too many of these houses this style built in Wagener Terrace. I mean, this is kind of a cool look that was indicative of what was built in Wagener Terrace back in the day.
Now we're standing in front of the Corrine Jones playground or park here in Wagener Terrace, and this land was actually originally used during World War II as temporary housing, and then it eventually turned over to the city and they turned it into a park, and so it was established in 1954. And it's kind of nice because it's a nice park, and it's a great amenity for the neighborhood of Wagener Terrace.
And a good place to run basketball if you want to play on Saturdays.
One of the more prevalent styles of architecture here in Wagener Terrace is the minimal traditional style of architecture. A good example of that is this home here, 962 Ashley Avenue. And there's about 50 plus homes with this style of architecture in this neighborhood. It's basically characterized as just a one-story brick building, and so very minimal, as the name suggests, minimal traditionalist.
So we are strolling down Rutledge, and we're passing 887 Rutledge. It is an example of Prairie style architecture, which is not a familiar term for most people, but Prairie style architecture is derived from the Prairie School of Chicago, and this was a group of architects that really were inspired and followed Frank Lloyd Wright, the famous architect, his way of designing houses. There's only about 17 of these in Wagener Terrace, but again, 887 Rutledge is Prairie style architecture.
So we're walking in front of 65 Sanssouci, and Sanssouci is actually a street that's here in Wagener Terrace that means no worries in Latin. But this is a great example of the Craftsman style of architecture. So we see this style of architecture more in this neighborhood than anywhere else. There's over 150 homes built in the Craftsman style of architecture in Wagener Terrace alone. So, and it's a very popular one even now. I think a lot of people are into Craftsman these days even. So with the full front porches and the bulky columns, it's kind of a nice look.
All right, guys, so we made our way up to the Rutledge Street Cab Company. This is one of the restaurants that was kind of on the forefront of the restaurant redevelopment up on this end of the Charleston Peninsula. It is kind of a cool neighborhood vibe in there and good food from my experiences. It is co-owned by Caddyshack legend Bill Murray, who owns it with Mike Veck, and they collectively also own the Charleston River Dogs as well.
Today we are interviewing Alex and John. They are the homeowners here at 81 Gordon Street. This is a home that they have purchased and with the intent of obviously renovating it. What made you guys decide to look in this neighborhood in particular, in Wagener Terrace?
It's bicycling distance, and I love downtown, and the restaurants and everything are right here. You don't have to drive anywhere. You can bicycle or walk pretty much to everything you need in this area. And it's a very eclectic neighborhood. I like you have a different mixture of big houses and little houses, and you have a mixture of different ethnic groups, and it's a nice mix. And you have people that are young that just moved here and they're starting families because they're new, renovating the homes and moving back in. And then you have people like both of our neighbors on either side are second generation families. Their parents built the houses and now they're living in the houses, and they're still here.
What drew you to this house in particular?
It was a corner lot. I like corner lots. It was big enough. It was all predominantly on one level. It had some character, and it had an opportunity or some chances for some interesting changes that we've been working on slowly to try and make.
Tell me a little bit about the history of the house. The house was built in 1940?
1937.
1937.
Yeah, the family that built it, the gentleman bought it and built it for his daughter as a wedding gift, and then the house on the opposite end of the street, which is kind of a mirror of this house, was her uncle's house. They owned it, I guess, until the 1960s, and then another family bought it, and they lived in it until we bought it. So we're basically only the third owners, which in Charleston, that's very unusual, with a house this old. During our renovation process, we're trying to stay as close as we can to the style period, with the fixtures that we're buying and with the tile and the tile bars and everything. We're trying to get it period, accurate as we can, but still modern and functional in some areas. There were some things we had to give up just for heating and air purposes, basically.
Yeah.
But, and we're north of 17, so we didn't have to stay exactly historically accurate.
So you did not have to deal with the Board of Architectural Review.
Right.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're south of 17 on the other side, then you have to absolutely have to be period specific.
Right, with the BAR.
It looks like that's an exterior wall, but that's a fake exterior wall. The bricks were cut and put up to make it look like they had been an exterior wall. So we're trying to make it look older than it might be.
We tore this down to cinder block. We did that with a lot of stuff because it had the old paneling inside, and so we tore out all the paneling and we put in, plaster walls, trying to keep that very period specific. We try and repurpose a lot of stuff, and we go to Habitat and places like that, getting older things and then just reusing them. We started out with being our own contractor on the front end, and we hired the people, and then my son would do some of the work, and then we'd do some of the work. And then we got to a phase that we said, okay, we're going to just get a regular contractor and do it a different way and let them do it turnkey, rather than us trying to locate each different contractor and that sort of thing. And that way we'd be more to code and
Right.
you know, making sure we were doing it the way it needed to be done.
Right, right.
There's certain things that I do want a GC for.
Right.
And there's certain things that
You don't need?
we could do ourselves or
Sure.
get somebody else to do. It might take a little longer,
Right.
but in the end, it's the way I want it.
One of the things that's different about this house versus a lot of houses in Charleston is this house actually has a basement.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
there's a basement.
Small.
Yeah, it's a small basement, but you know, and it did flood when you first bought it because you didn't have power and the
right.
sump
And the
pump
sump
was
pump.
off. Have you had any problems with it
Not-
otherwise?
Well-
we had a little bit of problems when we had the big flood. but
Yes.
other
Back
than
in the
that,
fall.
No, we've got things working, and that's going to be my wine cellar. So
Perfect.
I'm very excited about that.
There's also there's an attic, but the previous owners had converted it into like a rec room. I guess that's what you
Right.
have
Yeah.
called it. But there's some paintings going up the side of the
Right, yes.
the stairwell.
There's paintings, and also the original owners traveled a lot all over the world all the time. When New Year's would come around, they would have a big party, and whatever trip they had gone to, whatever country they had gone to, they had some local famous artist, I'm not sure the lady's name, would come and paint like a mural on one of their walls upstairs.
How do you like the area now that you've lived here?
The number of restaurants is growing.
And then we can bicycle to Hampton Park. It's 2 blocks away.
I know, it's so nice.
And, you know, if someone in the area comes with small children, they can take them over to the playground, and it's a very safe feeling neighborhood. You know, you don't mind walking around at night. You see people constantly. You sit on the front porch. This is the kind of neighborhood people sit on the front porch, and you know
That's great.
everybody that
Yeah.
walks by, and you're talking, and you know, it's just a very friendly area. Very friendly area.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for talking to me today, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.